We are about Home for Good Ministries just started this last year. Last November was our first event, and our team officially started meeting in January, actually. And basically what we are is a group of individuals that came together, all very similarly passionate about the need to care for orphans and the call to care for orphans, and just really coming together and meeting and saying, what can we do? We need to get the church community involved in this area. Each of us had our own individual experiences, our own adoption stories, things that really created a passion inside of us, and each of us just really felt like God was calling us to be a part of this ministry. And so together we've been meeting over the course of the last year. We've held a couple of events, resource fair type events, where we invited church families to come and meet with agencies and learn about the foster care and adoption process. And this is our first conference where we basically decided midsummer or so that we really wanted to help other churches become equipped and mobilized and motivated to get their church involved in how they can also care for orphans, and how within each church community in the Sacramento region we can find that opportunity, the thing that fits within your church, to be able to mobilize your church in whatever way that is appropriate to find a niche in this area of our call, our responsibility to care for orphans. So I wanted to tell you a little story just to start off with about sometimes you get involved in something and it gets so overwhelming and you just don't know, is this really what God wants me to be doing, because I'm so busy and I have so many things on my plate and I need to know what's right for me. And so we had one of our churches that is partnering with us launch their orphan ministry in their church just about a couple weeks ago, and they had an interest meeting and they had 20 people from their church show up, which was really exciting, and some of us were jealous that they had such a great interest in their church. And so all of these people came to the meeting and talked about their plans and their ideas of how they would serve orphans. And the next day, a couple was walking through the parking lot of a Walmart and ran into a young kid who came up and was asking for work and then asking for food. And the couple stopped and said, tell us what's going on. And he said, well, I'm an emancipated youth. I was in foster care. I just emancipated out of the system, and I'm homeless now. And so they called the pastor, and the pastor called the orphan ministry leader and said, go. He said, you want to do this? Here it is. And what a confirmation from God. Right the next day, delivering that. After 20 people meet and say, we're ready to step out, God met them right there in that moment and said, here you go. Had they ran into this emancipated youth, I'm not even sure all 20 people would have known what that meant, or what the situation looked like. But adopt an emancipated youth is actually one of the strategies you'll see in the binder. There's 500 youth every year who emancipate out of the system in the Sacramento area and are almost instantly homeless or in prison, in prostitution. And so here we had this group who had just met but was mobilizing their church and those 20 people and the rest of their church to support this emancipated youth. And so it's just amazing how God meets you and says, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So one of the things that we really try to communicate as a part of this message is that God never intended for those kids to be in that situation in the first place, to be homeless, to be out on the street, to not have a family who cared for them. And in fact, 40 times in the Bible, he calls the church to be the ones that are caring for them, that we would be already preemptively going and taking care of them. We tend to build orphanages for children. God didn't intend orphanage for children. He intended families for children. Psalm 68:6 says, God sets the lonely in families. And so that's what we're about. That's what Home for Good is about mobilizing the church to create families where God can set the lonely in families. So my time here is pretty quick, but I did want to tell you one more story, because getting involved in orphan ministry it's going to take some of your time. Getting involved in caring for these kids is hard. And it made me think of the other day, my kids, I got them a new ball, and they're playing with the ball. They're in the car talking about how they're going to play with the ball when they get home. And by the time we've made it home, the one ball that I bought them, they're now fighting over. I want to hold it. I want to hold it. No, I want to hold it. So what did I do as a mom? Give me the ball. If you can't share it, then you can't have it, right? So I take the ball away. And I'm really sad because I wanted them to enjoy the ball. So as I'm sitting there thinking, and they're pouting and sulking, and they really wanted the ball, and I said, when you're ready to share it, then you can have it back. And so I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking, gosh, sometimes wouldn't it be nice if God did that to us? If you can't share it, then you can't have it. And you know, he gives us so many things, and we have all these opportunities. Our time, our resources, our homes, our hearts, the things that we have, God can take away in a second and say, if you can't share it, you can't have it. And so, when I gave the ball back to them, they came back and said, okay, we're ready to share. And I said, okay, then you can have the ball back, but only if you're ready to share and you play nicely with each other and you figure out how to make it work. And they had so much fun. They created games where they rolled back and forth, they kicked the ball to each other, they threw the ball up in the air, and one person caught it and they threw it back. And the blessings of being able to share, even though they didn't think it was going to be that fun to share, the blessings of sharing in the end so much more outweighed the having held it on themselves. Because if they held it themselves, this is really not that fun. But they had so much fun enjoying the time together. And I think sometimes we don't see that. We think, oh, it's going to be so hard to share. This is my solitude. This is my place where I rest, or this is my time. I have so much of it. Or my spouse, who wants to go and mentor, and we say, well, I want you to be home for me, and I want you to do this. And in Deuteronomy 24, God calls us to leave a portion of our harvest for orphans. And that's our time, our resources, our hearts, our homes, things like that. So I just kind of want you to hear that is what our heart is today. And if I had you walk away with just two things today, the two things for me would be, number one, that you would walk away with a heart that is just open and willing to what God wants to do in your life and how He wants to use you. Just that you would be changed in being willing to receive whatever God has in your life and in this call that He's placed in your heart. Just that you would meditate and think about, where does God want to use me? How does God want to use me in my church? And then the second thing is that you would walk away today with tools and resources and allies to help you do something, to help you take that passion and that call and that open heart and actually put it into action. So we have a binder full of materials and breakout session leaders who are going to help you, try to equip you. And then as Home for Good, we're going to continue, and you'll hear about this later, having every other month meetings where you can come and learn from additional speakers and feel like you have a network of people to connect with and talk about, I'm trying to do this in my church and I need help. So we hope that you'll walk away with resources and allies and tools that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and launch into our other speakers that we have. One of the things I often hear when I speak at different churches or Sunday school groups, when I talk about foster care and adoption and I talk about the issues and just the things that are going on in our community, I always get a hand that says, the social services system is so messed up. What is the government doing about this? There's all these problems. I think we need to write a letter writing campaign and write our senators, and we need to tell them that they need to get this stuff together. We need to tell them about this bill that we need to pass. We need more money here. We need this. So I thought what we would do today, get that out of the way, save you some stamps, some ink, and we'll just bring a state senator here and let him share with you.
Yeah!
We have State Senator George Runner here, and he has been a child advocate throughout his career. He started as a Christian educator and founded a school in Southern California, a Christian school. He has been the author of bills such as Jessica's Law and Amber Alert, which you may be familiar with, and just really throughout his career has focused on children and protecting children, and he is an adoptive father himself, so also very passionate about this topic. He is also grandfather to our adopted son, Raider, and a really great father-in-law. So State Senator George Runner, thank you for being here.